Howdy guys, Jake here today with a dive on the east coast of Florida. We're in some inland waters today, so we're not going to have as good clarity as we do on Oceanside. So I literally just hopped in the water here. You can see those mangrove snappers swimming around the pilings. I go ahead, take my first dive of the day, and I see a lionfish, and I kind of had to do a double take to make sure I was seeing the right thing, as I wouldn't expect to see one in this area. Now, this guy is super tiny, so I managed to barely clip him since he's almost the size of the spearhead. He goes ahead and darts over to those cinder blocks over there, and I ready up to shoot him again. Then I thought about the nice new sharp tip I put on this spear bouncing against that steel wall, so I decided not to shoot him at full power and just sort this out on another dive. So when I go back down here, I hit him, and I also hit the steel wall behind him. So he doesn't get too far onto my spear and he ends up just wiggling off and then stirring up a bunch of sand. So I go ahead and go back up and wait for the dust to settle so I can move the cinder block to get a better shot on him. Now, lionfish are an invasive species and they're also quite delicious, which is why I'm bothering with a fish this small anyway. But a lot of people tend to overlook the threat that small lionfish put onto the environment, is when they get bigger and they release eggs, they can end up swarming entire areas. And beyond the fact they don't have a lot of natural predators, they have very similar diets to some of the other native fish. So large populations of lionfish can end up driving out the native reef species. So it's best to take them out of the area while they're still small and not a problem. So after I moved that cinder block, I let all the dust settle and came back down, and I don't see him. Little did I know he was actually sitting right underneath my chest, but I started scouting the area looking everywhere for him, thinking, no way did I really just get given the slip by a lionfish. So after abandoning the 10-second search for the lionfish, I go down looking for something a little bigger to bring home, and I see this nice sized sheep's head. And the water's a little cold, so when I go to shoot him, I don't fully let go of the pull spear. I end up just dragging it along my fingers and slowing it down. So it hits him, but it doesn't go all the way through, so he can just come off and swim away. I go to follow him, and he's off in the distance, but I did find this nice $15 lure. 90% of the lures I find I just give to the nearest fisherman, so I swam over to the beach and gave it to the guy fishing off of it. So I take another dive where I saw the lionfish last, and I figured I just didn't look hard enough in the original spot. So I stuff my head in between the hole of the cinder block here, and I see his fins sticking out right there. He pops out a little once he realized I saw him. So I go ahead and line up a shot and make sure I'm not missing this time. And I wedge my pole spear a foot and a half into the sand and I can't get it out. Now, if lionfish wasn't this delicious, I wouldn't be going through all this trouble to get him, but I know the two small fillets I'm going to peel off of him are going to be worth the while. So I just go back down and I'm sitting here tugging super hard to get it released from the mud. It's a super silty bottom here. So it's just like when you lose a boot in mud, the thing was just suctioned into the ground. Now after I put away the lionfish, I'm swimming back out and I see the sheep's head in the shallows with me. So I load up my pole spear, I dive down, and I'm being as non-threatening and slow as possible to get up to him. But as soon as I let go of my pole spear, I'm having the same problem with the cold water. My hand's cramped up and it just slides along my fingers and loses all of its speed and momentum. Just bonks him in the side of the head, gives him a cool battle scar to tell his friends about. I tried chasing him, but fish swim a little faster than me. As you can see, the spot is just loaded with snook. Got this parrotfish that swims over top of them right here. Found another lure someone lost. Diving down here and you see the little sheep's head that I almost land on top of. And a bunch of really good sized snook. You see the big guy in the back with his shadow. Now sadly these are completely illegal to spearfish. Here I find a sea urchin I've never seen before, not even sure what species it is. So I'm going down here again, and I see another huge ball of snook. I also see a mangrove snapper that I could take home, so I'm being patient, waiting for him to come to me. And then it's the same story with the cold water. I don't fully let go of the spear, so it has no power when it hits him, just pushes him off into the distance. Another fish with a battle scar to go talk to his friends about. So right here when I get to the bottom, see the sheep's head, he's barely keeping size, so I ignore him, but he decides to sit and stick around, so if he has a death wish, I'll fulfill it. Same story, barely let go of the pole spear, just real slow moving through the water, just bonks him and pushes him out of the way. Another big ball of snook down here, and I always find it funny when people say that these are some of the smartest fish in our area, because you're watching them sit a foot away from me, not scared about the guy they're watching run around shooting all their friends. Nothing too special about this dive, just admiring the scenery. See this big mangrove snapper run across the top of my vision, but I actually didn't see him when I was under the water, so he ends up swimming off. Probably wouldn't have hit him anyway, given how the trend's been going today. Another big old ball of snook. See that pretty big guy in the top up there? Diving down here to see more snook, and I'll see a mangrove snapper walk right in front of me. I don't think I need to repeat myself on why this has happened for the 30th time today, but he gets away again. Got this little tiny sheep's head right here, and then I look up and see another giant ball of snook. Definitely marking this as a spot to come back with the line and reel. So I'm finally starting to reach my point of peak coldness here. I've already made multiple trips in and out of the water, warming up in the 90-degree sun, then hopping back into water that felt like 70 degrees. Not sure where the cold water was coming from, but it came from somewhere. On the way back in, I see these two pufferfish. They go ahead and skedaddle when I get a little too close. Coming up on my final dive of the day here, I'm hoping to come home with more than a tiny little lionfish. When I get to the bottom here, I start making some grunting noises, trying to attract some fish. Got these undersized mangrove snapper and these spadefish. I go ahead and look up in case there's a sheep's head feeding above me, look behind me in case something snuck up. Nothing was here, turn back around, see a sheep's head that's entirely too small, so I don't bother with him. So, kinda accepted my fate, got out of the water, warmed up, and went home with the lionfish. So filleting a lionfish isn't any different than filleting any other fish. I already took the spines off this guy, as it's not nice to get injected with venom when you're trying to clean a fish. But just make a diagonal cut behind its head, and then I'm sticking the knife in and I'm just running down his tiny little backbone. After I separate the meat all the way down to the tail, I just start running my knife over his backbone now. There's not a lot of meat on this fish, so I'm being really meticulous, trying to get every last shred off of him. Once again, if I didn't think the fish was this delicious, I wouldn't be bothering with all this effort. Now it's the exact same process for the other side. Now, a little fun fact about lionfish, their scales are super tiny and they have thousands of them. You can see it, he's kind of pale over here, and that's because a lot of his scales wiped off in me handling him. But all these little black dots you see on the cutting board and on the knife, those are its scales, and they are quite similar to glitter. They will get everywhere and you cannot get them off. As you can see right here, after I took the skin off, this is some of the whitest meat you will see on a fish. really is only rivaled by hogfish or snook. Gotta give the tax collector some of it. She was already rubbing around my feet when she smelt fish when I walked in. Now, for those of you who enjoy cute cat noises, I would turn the sound up for this bit. Now, I'm cooking this up for my brother who's never had lionfish before, so I'm leaving it purposely plain, just very light salt, after I pat it dry. Patting it dry is arguably the most important part, and the salt just drives out even more moisture, but having drier fillets will give them a nicer crust when you're cooking them, and it'll also help it cook more evenly. So I just got some butter in a hot pan here. When I cook fish, I usually do 2 minutes on the first side, 1:30 on the other, but since these are super small fillets, I'm going to do 1 minute on the first side and 30 seconds on the other. Here I'm literally just walking around waiting for the clock to go up 1 minute on the stove. You can see the other cat made his way into the kitchen when he smelled I was cooking fish. So it's been a minute, go ahead flipping them over. You can already see that nice golden color on the side that's been cooking. Just scooping them up here to put them on a paper towel to get a little bit of the excess oil off. See that nice golden color on them though. Now here I was too lazy to get a plate for this depressingly small amount of fish, so I'm fighting with the paper towel trying to somehow turn it into a plate. Despite how small the fish was, my brother thought it was quite good. Even besides the fact I cooked it in butter, it's one of those really buttery fish that just melts in your mouth. Thank you guys for watching the video all the way through. If you liked it, go ahead and drop a like, and if you want to subscribe, you'll get to see these videos as they roll out. As long as the weather is nice, I plan to put out at least one of these a week.